You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
All right, welcome back in. Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Last week, a little Thursday night football action at Lincoln Financial Field, and it was a great success. Temple gets back in the bowl race with a big victory over Navy, which I have a lot of respect for the program and the job that Kenny Amatu-Lolo has done at Navy. But the Owls get the victory 34-26, and now joining us right now on the Zach Gelb Show is the head coach of the Temple University football team, the Temple Owls, and that's Geoff Collins, who's getting ready for a Friday night game up against Cincinnati in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the first-year head coach for your Temple Owls, and Geoff Collins, joins us right now. Geoff, congrats on the win. Thank you, and how are you?
Hey, Zach. Thanks for having me on, man. I'm doing great.
Well, thank you for coming on. So let's put some finishing touches on that Navy game. Your defense, we all know how good that rushing attack is for Navy. 52 carries and it only allowed a $136. What worked so well for the defense last Thursday night?
Yeah, got to give a lot of credit to our defensive staff. I thought they did a great job preparing for that offense for 3 weeks. Saving some things from the Army game. We played the triple option really good against Army as well. And then we saved some things, to use against Navy. And it just kept them off balance. We kept going from an 8-man front to a 3-4 and then back and forth. So Navy could never get in a rhythm. And then you got to give us so much credit to our defensive line. They did a great job controlling the line of scrimmage, creating tackles for loss, getting penetration, and then our, secondary linebackers fitting the runs off of our great D-line.
I know I mentioned the rushing numbers, but if you look at all the numbers from the game, 11 tackles for loss by the team, 5 sacks, and Sharif Finch was really leading the way with 2 sacks and 2 tackles for loss. Sharif, it feels like he's been here forever, but he always knows to rise to that occasion in the big game. Just how about what Sharif Finch gives you guys?
Yeah, I mean, he's a special player for us. Missed all of last season. It should have technically been his senior year. And rehabbed and came back stronger than ever. He's just a dynamic pass rusher. He's one of our single-digit guys, so he's very, very tough, and just made some great plays, just fitting the run. I know he had some splash plays with tackles for losses and sacks, but what he did on a down-to-down basis, keeping their offensive tackles off of our young linebackers, was really impressive as well.
You look at the last few weeks, you had 2 really tough losses to UConn and Army. Heartbreaking in the way that you guys lost those games. Then you get the bye week, and you had the performance like you did up against Navy. What did you guys as a coaching staff really stress to the players during the bye to get the performance that we got to see last Thursday?
Yeah, and even in the losses, we did some really good things. I think we averaged 200 yards more than the opposition in both of those losses. But just they played hard. We challenged some of our younger guys, our juniors and our sophomores, which we probably have more of those playing than we do have seniors, to step up and show some leadership and to help these seniors finish out the right way, because they've done such a great job over the course of their career. And let's put on a performance and show some leadership to really help these seniors finish out in style. And I think they really took that to heart and really did that.
Geoff Collins with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show. I saw you did say earlier today that Frank Newtile is going to be starting on Friday, and really did have 2 special back-to-back games. But in the Navy game, 22 of 30, 289, and 4 touchdowns. Evaluate the performance by your quarterback that we got to see on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, he threw the ball really well, got the ball downfield. But the thing that he just did on a down-to-down basis, getting the protections right, getting the run game going in the right direction. I thought the leadership that he showed, not just with the offense, he was in the defensive huddle before they would take the field. He was in the special teams huddle at one point late in the game. I'm there getting the kickoff team fired up to run out onto the field to kick off. And the next thing I know, here's this blur headbutting kids in that kickoff huddle. And I'm like, who is this? And it's Frankie Juice.
Look at that.
And he's headbutting kids before the kickoff play. And that's just a nice part of leadership that you can't teach, that he just has, and he's done a really good job for us.
Will he be your starter the rest of the way? And also, what's the latest on Logan Marchie?
We do it. We go 1 week at a time at every single position. I'm just excited to see him play Friday night. And then Logan's done a great job for us all season, and he's still coming back and getting healthy. And, we still think very highly of Logan in this program.
We know how good your wide receiving unit is, and you got to see that on display on Thursday with what Adonis and Kirkwood could do, and then how just multi-dimensional Isaiah Wright's been, and he's been multi-dimensional for you guys all year long. But just those three wide receivers, Adonis, Kirkwood, and Wright, and it's pretty tough to defend, right?
Absolutely. We got a great group right there, and we've got a legend of college football and NFL football coaching them in Stan Hicks, and he's doing a great job with those guys. And I'm just really proud of how hard they work day in and day out. And, it's no surprise if you work really hard in practice, you're going to have really good games on Saturdays, Thursdays, or Fridays whenever we play.
I know Al Scoop had a bunch reported on this, and you said it was an internal matter after the game. Ventel Bryant, do you expect him to be available for you guys on Friday?
Absolutely. Really excited to get him back. And, I know he's excited to be back on the field with his brothers.
But what does he need to change? Because I know a lot's been made with Ventel Bryant with the internal matter, and then even going back to the number one, there was a lot made about that change with that. What does Ventel need to change to get him back on track?
Yeah, he just needs to do what he's done in this program, be a playmaker, be a hard worker, be a tough guy. He has all of those qualities, and we're just excited for him for these next 3 games and hopefully even more to put those on display for everybody and for his teammates and all those things.
Talking to Geoff Collins, wrapping up with the Temple coach, trying to get this team back to a bowl game. This offensive line, you know me, I'm always about the offensive line. No sacks allowed on Thursday night. What's gelling right now with this offensive line unit? Because I don't think they get enough credit.
Yeah, there's no doubt they don't. I think Chris Weezahan has done an unbelievable job. I think we've been, some games we've been down 4 starters, 3 starters. It's kind of a revolving door, but the really nice thing, and you could almost say the same thing about our defensive line, is no matter who goes in there to play, they play at a high level, they play tough, they play physical, they lay their hearts on the line for the guys that are next to them. And, obviously, the players don't get enough credit. Coach Weezahan doesn't get enough credit. But just the day-to-day work that they go through. And I've said this before, but one of my favorite things about being a head coach is really getting to have some deep personal relationships with our offensive line. Because other places I've been in the SEC as defense coordinator, you get to, have some surface relationships with them, and they're great kids. But I've got to have some really deep, meaningful relationships with all these guys. And they're just a special group, unselfish. They play hard. They care about everybody else on the team's performance, and they don't get enough of the glory, but they're the ones that really make all of this happen.
And I'll tell you, before you got here, when Weezahan's first year was here, they were very thin on numbers, and this is a true story. Back when I was a student, he actually asked me if I wanted to walk on to the team. So
sure.
Just to see the growth with what Deion's been able to do, now getting meaningful snaps in Buffalo and some of the guys you're having, that's been a quick turnaround over the last few years out of this offensive line at Temple, where it's been a real strength of the team.
Absolutely. We're still, we're going to sign a huge offensive line class this year, because we lose some great players. We lose Bouger, we lose Sully, we lose BC, we lose Leon. So we're going to try to sign a really large offensive line class in this recruiting cycle. And I'm really excited about some of the kids that obviously I can't mention by name.
Sure.
But really excited about them coming into our program, into our culture, and developing under a great offensive line coach, Chris Weezahan.
3-6, the Cincinnati team. We know they're in a transitional year. When you look at the Cincinnati team, even though the record doesn't suggest that you're playing a great football team, what are some things that you like about them?
Yeah, they've got some freakish athletes. They've got length. They've got speed across the field. They've done a really nice job. You watch them on special teams. They're flying down the field. They're playing really hard. They're long. They're fast. And, those are some things to really be admired. And they're getting better every single week. And so we know we have our hands full, and we're getting ready every single day.
This is a program right now. You know that you have to win at least 2 more games to get into a bowl game. I know that you look at it going 1-0 each and every week, but how do you get your players not to look at the big picture and just focus on winning this week up against Cincinnati on Friday?
Yeah, our kids are pretty level-headed. They understand that the every single day, every single practice, every single game has a life of its own. And, at times I think we've looked ahead this year, and it's gotten us. And so with a young football team, kind of expect some lapses of judgment, but they've gotten more and more mature every single week. and we don't anticipate having any single letdown. And we're going to come out and play our hardest and compete as hard as we can on ESPN on Friday night.
Jeff, last one as we're wrapping up with Geoff Collins. I know I can hear it in your voice. I know you don't get much sleep, and being a college coach, you don't have a lot of free time. But one of your former players, Fletcher Cox, right now is dominating with the Eagles, and the Eagles are 8-1 heading into their bye week. I don't know if you got to watch the game yesterday, but what are your thoughts on what the Eagles have been doing right now?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to watch anything. I'm actually wearing an Eagles T-shirt right now.
How about that?
I'm happy for Fletcher. Happy for those guys. I've gotten to know the coaching staff and Howie and some of the other guys involved in the organization. Chris Wilson, the defensive line coach. We were together at Mississippi State, so I've got a lot of close friends over there. And so really happy for them, really happy for this city. This city is a great football town, and so it's just really exciting. But I'm kind of in a bubble where all I do is worry about Temple football day in and day out, and that's my sole primary focus. But it is nice to know that there's some other positive things going on around us as well.
Good to hear, Jeff. Best of luck coming up on Friday. We'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you, bud.
Appreciate it. There's Geoff Collins joining us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. Nice victory for the Owls last Thursday up against Navy with the victory 34-26. And that margin of victory was a little bit bigger if you actually watch the entire game. Navy went on some drives later in that game, but Temple did a very nice job, and they were the dominant football team up against Kenny Amatu Lolo's squad. So big takeaway from that is, they're expecting to have Ventel Bryant coming up on Friday night, and we'll see. It's an internal matter. The number one was taken away. Now they claimed, Temple claims that it was a selfless act by Ventel Bryant. I don't know how much you believe of that, but that's what they say. So you take their word for what it's worth. And right now it looks like Ventel Bryant is going to be back and is going to be playing. But we'll see what he does, see how much reps he get, and what he will do on Friday night up against Cincinnati. But Temple, if you look at the schedule, you got Cincinnati, which is a winnable game, UCF, which is a very tough game, but that's at the Link, and then you're at Tulsa. So I thought it was a long shot after the Army game and the Army debacle. I thought it was a long shot to make a bowl game. I'm still skeptical if they can make a bowl game. But right now, with Cincinnati and Tulsa, you win those two, you'll get bowl eligible at 6 wins, and then you got to see how that plays out, because we know Temple a few years ago, and Matt Rule's second year, I believe, was 6-6, and Kenny Harper in his final year as an Owl was denied a bowl game. So good stuff with Geoff Collins, and if you didn't get the reference, it was a little bit of a joke. A few years ago, when Chris Weasahan was first brought in, Matt Rule was kidding around that I was a recruit, actually, instead of a reporter. And I was talking to Weasahan, and he goes, "Man, F your broadcasting career." When he found out I was a broadcaster, he goes, "I need you to come play offensive line for me." Because in the summer and in the spring ball, too, they were just killed with some injuries at the offensive line position. They just needed numbers. I think they brought back Adam Metz. If I'm thinking of the right guy, they brought him back just to get some reps, to be a body in there, and he didn't have to do conditioning and run any of the sprints. But that Temple team, they've done a nice job turning this around. I thought going into the year they'd be a 7-win team. Have they been disappointing at times during this year? No question. It's inexcusable to lose to UConn. And then Army, when you're up and there's a backup quarterback in at the end of the game, your defense has to make a stop. But overall, that offensive line has been improving big time. And I'll make it clear, and I'll say it before I'll say it again. Frank Newtile, I thought he should have been the starter going into this year. I didn't want to see Logan Marchi. Nothing against Logan. He's a good kid. I thought Frank Newtile gave them a better chance to win. It took him a while. It took him a Logan Marchi unfortunate injury to get Newtile into the fold. And I think you got to ride with the hot hand of Frankie Juice, as Coach Collins likes to call him. And Frankie Juice, 22 of 30, 289, 4 touchdowns on Thursday. So I didn't think they had a great quarterback situation going into this year. I thought the player with the most talent was Todd Centeio, but you want to get that red shirt in, which I understand that. I thought they should have went with Newtile, and I would go with Newtile the rest of the way. 609-9199-D200, Zach Gelb Show,